Let me try that. Let me apologize to everyone. I had to go back out and start all over again. That should be better. That should be better. Still trying to become technologically savvy. So I apologize for that the brief inconvenience, but that should be better. I had to go back out and correct that. So how do we allow our haters to become our motivators? This is part 3. We started with Jesus and the disciples in the first sermon. Last week we started with Jacob and Joseph and the brothers. And I want to continue now with Jacob, Joseph and the brothers in chapter 37 of Genesis, verses 10 through 36. I'm going to highlight just a few verses. I want to highlight just a few verses for our hearing, beginning at verse 10. Well, verse 11. His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in his heart. Verse 18. Joseph, but they saw Joseph in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him. They plotted to kill him. And let me go to verse 21. When Reuben heard this, he tried to rescue him from their hands. Let's not take his life, he said. Don't shed any blood. Throw him into this cistern here in the wilderness. But don't lay a hand on him, Reuben said. This to rescue him from them and to take them back to his father. And at the end, verse 36, meanwhile, the Midianites sold Joseph in Egypt to Potiphar, one of Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard. And so now in this episode, in this story, number one, Jacob creates a toxic relationship. Jacob creates a toxic relationship. Because Jacob showed favoritism to Joseph, and he loved Joseph more than the other brothers, he started a process in the family that became toxic. The whole relationship among the siblings began to deteriorate and digress, all because Jacob decided to love one child more than the other children. He gave preferential treatment and favoritism to Joseph. Now, once he did that, I want you to watch what happens. Among the brothers, it goes from hatred to jealousy to a plot to kill Joseph. Let me rewind that. It goes from hatred, verse 8. It goes to jealousy, verse 11. It goes to a plot to kill Joseph, verse 18. It's an atmosphere of toxicity. The whole relationship among the brothers become toxic. Brothers who are supposed to love each other and work together. Brothers who are supposed to be in a harmonious relationship are now hating each other, jealous of each other. Now the brothers want to destroy and kill Joseph. Now the situation has become toxic. The brothers now see Joseph as an enemy, all because the daddy showed favoritism to Joseph over the other brothers. It started a process in the relationship with the other siblings that got out of control. It went from hatred to jealousy to a plot to kill Joseph. And now it's a situation of toxicity, vindictiveness, mean spirit, and a plot to destroy their own brothers. They should have been friends. They should have been loving on each other. And now they have become enemies. Parents, we have to be careful. That's the danger of loving one child more than another. That's the danger of showing favoritism toward one child over the other children. It can create a situation that can get out of control. It went from hatred to jealousy to a plot to kill. It's an atmosphere of a toxic nature. So Jacob creates a toxic relationship among the brothers. That's number one. That's number one. Number two, Joseph makes a decision on the dream. Now, in the midst of all of this toxic atmosphere and relationship, God gives Joseph a dream. And the dream comes from God to Joseph. And it's a dream that says that Joseph one day will be in a leadership position, and he will be over his brothers and his parents. And God will put him in a leadership position. And Joseph gets a dream from God. Now, it's one thing to get a dream from God, but once we get a dream from God, we must make a decision on the dream. In other words, we must do the things necessary to make the dream come true. We must step out and then make the dream happen. It's one thing to get a dream from God. That's good. That's a good start, because that's a promise from God. But after we get a promise from God and a dream from God, it's up to us to make a decision on the dream. Because it is possible to get a dream from God, but we never act on it. We never move on it, and it stays a dream. But when God gives us a dream, you got to make a decision on it. We must make a decision to act on the dream, step out, and make it happen. And so Joseph makes a decision to step out on the dream and make it happen. Because the moment he decided to step out on the dream, now he's living by divine purpose. Now he's captured by a cause. Now he's motivated by a mission. Once he decides to step out on that dream, now he's driven by a divine purpose in his life. Now God gets busy, and God is activated, and God will move and act on his behalf. Keep in mind, Joseph made the mistake of sharing his dream with haters. Now, even though he made that mistake, that didn't stop God from blessing his life. Some of us will make the mistake of sharing our dream with folk who hate us. But the question is, how do you fight through dream killers? Even though we make the poor choice of telling our dream to the wrong folk, how do you navigate and work through dream killers? Just because folk want to kill your dream doesn't mean they can do it. God is still active, and God will move in spite of our mistake to share the dream with the wrong folk and the folk who hate us. And so when Joseph decides to make a decision on the dream, now he's living by divine purpose. When God gives you a dream and God gives you a vision, act on it. Step out on it. Start doing the things necessary to make the dream come true. Never allow God to give us a dream and then we don't move on it. We don't act on it. And we don't do the things to make it happen. If God gives it to you and then God gives you a piece about it, it's already worked out. It's already fixed. It's already established, and it's already done. Joseph makes a decision on the dream. If God gives you an ideal, if God gives you a vision, if God gives you a dream, act on it. Step out on it. Make it happen. Do the things necessary to make the dream come true. If God gives you a vision to go back to school, register, apply, make it happen. If God gives you a dream to start your own business, start the research. Do the things necessary to make it happen. Once God gives it to you and you get a peace about it, it's already fixed. It's already done. It's already established. You now begin to walk in it. Joseph made a decision on the dream. I encourage you, make a decision. That's number two. Number one, Jacob created a toxic relationship. Number two, Joseph makes a decision on the dream. Number three, God will use other people to bless your life. God will use other people to bless your life. And so in the story, once Joseph steps out on the dream and he's operating and moved by the purposes of God, it's interesting how God used the people in his life to bless his life. When those 11 brothers decided to take his life and they were conspiring to kill him, the 11 got together, started talking about it. But in the midst of the conversation, Reuben and Judah stood up and said, wait a second. We can't take him out like that. We can't kill him. No, let's preserve his life. You see, once you start operating on the purpose of God, you got 11 folk trying to take you out, God gonna touch somebody. And God touched Reuben and Judah to stand up for Joseph. Even though it was a toxic relationship, don't underestimate God's ability to touch toxic people. God can still touch folk who are toxic. Even though the 11 brothers were operating in an atmosphere of toxicity, God touched Reuben and Judah, and they stood up and spoke in behalf of Joseph. God can still touch folk who don't like you. God can still use folk who got a knife in your back. God can make your enemies your footstool. God can use the very people that don't like you and use them to bless your life. Don't underestimate God's ability to touch toxic people. They might be mean. They might possess a low-down spirit. They may not like you, but that can't stop God from touching them, using them to bless you. God used Reuben and Judah to stand up for Joseph. And so they agreed to put him in the pit. They put Joseph in the pit. And then a group of Midianites came up and picked Joseph up. The brothers put him in the pit, but the Midianites came and picked him up out of the pit. The brothers put him in the pit. Judah and Reuben stood up for him. Then God used the Midianites to pick him up out of the pit, and then they sold him to Potiphar, and Potiphar hired him. At every point in Joseph's life, God had some people to bless his life. God had somebody to keep his dream alive. God had somebody to advance his career. God had somebody to push him to his destiny. You never know who God's going to use to bless your life. One day I was watching a show. They were giving a Lifetime Award to Denzel Washington. And one of the speakers was Chadwick Boseman. He's the actor that played Black Panther. He gets up and he starts talking about Denzel. And Boseman says when he was a student at Howard University, majoring in acting, he said one summer he was accepted to an acting program in Oxford, England. And he said it was Denzel Washington who paid for the tuition. And Boseman said, if it had not been for Denzel Washington, there wouldn't be a Black Panther. God used Denzel to bless his life. God used Denzel to keep his dream alive. God used Denzel to advance his career. God used Denzel to push him to his destiny. Whenever we walk in the purpose of God, and we accept God's dream and we make a decision on the dream, God already got it organized who he's going to use in the future to bless your life. Once you start walking in God's purpose, your future is already done. What's going to happen tomorrow has already been decided, and God got some folk in the future that God's going to use to bless your life, keep your dream alive, advance your career, and push you to your destiny. So if you got some dream haters and some dream killers, if you got some folk in your life that's hating on you, don't get tired. Don't be defeated. Don't lose faith. You never know who God's going to use to bless your life, advance your career, keep your dream alive, and push you to your destiny. I feel like shouting right now. That's why God is so good. So whatever you're doing out there in Facebook world, keep in mind God is moving, God is blessing, and God is making a way. So the best is yet to come, and the miracles that God is working in our lives, somebody ought to shout, thank you, because God is good. Well, I'm through for today. I'll be back next Sunday. And keep in mind, you never know who God is going to use to bless your life, advance your career, keep your dream alive, and push you to your destiny. God bless you. Peace. Have a great day.